Engaging with potential clients on LinkedIn effectively can be harder than it seems. Gone are the days of spamming people or sending out generic comments and emails. In fact, research would suggest that 75% of prospects are more likely to engage if they receive content tailored to their industry challenges. 87% of B2B buyers have a favorable impression of a salesperson introduced through someone in their professional network rather than reaching out cold. 74% of buyers making large purchases expect sales professionals to offer new or different insights tailored to their roles and challenges. 92% of B2B buyers engage with sales professionals known as industry thought leaders, and buyers are 71% more likely to engage if a salesperson mentions specific information relevant to their current job. So, how do we approach these insights in a way that is practical and can scale and drive growth predictably? Our guest has created a platform to solve some of these issues, and we'll get into the details in just a moment. First, hello and welcome to the Predictable B2B Success Podcast brought to you by Sproutworth.com. I'm Vinay Koshi, and our guest today is Jason Tan. Jason, you're the founder of Engage AI, a conversation co-pilot that remembers conversations across multiple channels to augment conversations in virtual and real life. I believe you released the product in early 2023 and have accumulated well over 30,000 users worldwide who've been using it to break ice and engage with their potential future clients. You're also taking learnings from implementing Engage AI to help enterprises by sharing the lessons you've learned to embrace and incorporate generative AI and large language models into their business. It's very interesting, Jason. I'm curious, was there a specific incident or event that triggered this journey into creating Engage AI to what it is today?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Vinay. Super excited to
Pleasure.
be on the podcast. I suppose the journey of coming to Engage AI is probably similar to a lot of the startup out there where I was trying to solve my own problem. So many years ago, when I started the DTA Lab, which is a data and AI consulting business for enterprise and government agency, in the very beginning, a lot of time I was just relying on my own network to get the business. But then at one point, I realized that, you know what, Vinay, if I continue to rely on my network to get the business, I soon will run out of my own network to get more businesses. So I got to do something about it. And I tried a bunch of things like many people would have tried, create a website, go to a networking event, all of those things. And one of them included getting on to social media like LinkedIn. So initially with LinkedIn, I think the result was mixed, especially I followed some of the advice to use some of those automation tools, and it was horrible. But then over the time I realized that is something that is forget about trying to tell them about who I am and what I can do. I think the biggest challenge that a lot of the B2B seller have got is the same problem that I have got, which is how do I get their attention? How do I break the ice and start a conversation? And one of the strategies that I have found to be working so well for me back then is what I call commenting for attention strategy. So I realized that obviously not all my target prospect, for example, the head of analytics, the head of data science, or the head of customer analytics, not all of them they post, but certainly there are some of them who post content. So I always try to be sure that I was one of the first five people who commented whenever they post. And it was very easy because a lot of time they don't get much of engagement even though after they post. So if I realize that as I continue to engage with them, I get the attention that I could then start a conversation with them in DM, then all the things follow subsequently. So I've been doing that for over a few years now. And then when ChatGPT was released, I realized that, wow, this tool is the ChatGPT, the large language model, is going to help me to do two things better. Number one, I am going to comment better because there are days that I just got writer's block, or there are days that I just couldn't come up anything or something that is unique to say. Number two is going to reduce my time. Although I still read the post very quickly and then try to come up something, but like it or not, reading the entire post and come up something unique and insightful or even funny to say, it could take easily 5 to 10 minutes. So I just put together a solution for that using the chat GPT, knowing that myself and a lot of the SMB owner having that challenge where I think in the world that we live in today, people no longer read email, people no longer respond to messages, or people definitely do not want to pick up the phone call. So I put together that Engage AI solution based on the thing that I already tried and tested. And that is how I came up Engage AI.
Brilliant. I'd love to explore this in more detail. There's lots of points we could explore, but I'd also like to ask you this. Given your journey to date, what would you say is your personal area of strength?
Can you repeat again? What is your personal
Sure.
what?
Personal area of strength.
Personal area of strength.
Strength, as in what is what you would call your superpower?
Oh, what would we call my superpower? Like me personally,
Yeah, correct.
I would probably say that my personal superpower would be imagine and visualize how technology could help us and how to put together and make the technology work. That is
Okay.
probably my superpower. Yeah.
And in that area of strength, what would you say is something that businesses don't know but should?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm glad that you asked that question. I actually would say that one of the things that the business owner should know, but and they should do, but they haven't done it, is actually go out there and sell more. And that is actually my weaknesses because I am one of those software engineer who are really good with the technical, working in the corporate. And one day after working in the corporate for a long time, I wanted to do my own thing. But then being really good at technical versus running a business using your technical skill is entirely a different story because when you run a business, you need to go out there and sell more. I have to I must admit in the beginning of my business running my own businesses I wasn't focused enough in trying to sell and wasn't focused enough to try to get people to know my assistant. I wasn't focused enough to get people to know me in terms of what and build that know, like, and trust relationship. That is really what I believe that the businesses should be doing, especially when they are still small, especially when they are still starting out, and especially if you are if you come from a technical background, like whether you are accountant, you are data analytic consultant, or whether you are leadership management person, a lot of time those are our technical skill set. But those technical skill set alone are not going to be enough to help us in running business. So that is really something that I highly encourage people should really seek out to master.
And given your expertise and kind of connecting the dots with the evolution of technology, let me ask you this. How can we harness the power of AI to amplify human authenticity rather than replace it, thereby revolutionizing B2B conversations and driving predictable revenue growth?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm glad that you asked that question because the very first thing that I have in mind when we create the Engage AI, and I still believe this is going to be the case going forward, not only for us, but also for a lot of the startup, for a lot of the people who are going to implement large language model or who are going to implement AI into their businesses, is the keyword that you use is already there. is to augment what we do, is to help us to do it faster and do it more and to do it in a better quality as well. It's never meant to replace us. And for that reason, I highly encourage anyone who is implementing AI should think about putting the human in the loop. So for example, with Engage AI, as much as we have a lot of requests that people are wanting us to fully automate the entire workflow so that the engage so that the system will just go out and engage with people while they are asleep. We don't want to go down to that direction because we still believe that it's so important to put human in the loop so that they always have a chance to see what is suggested for them, see what is drafted for them, or to see what is prepared for them so that they can continue to add their personal touch, to add their personal voice, and also to add their personal knowledge into there, and also to have their authenticity in the messages, in whatever the way that they go. And that is the future that we want to have, right? Why would we want to live in the world or the future where everything is automated? So really, human in the loop is the answer for that.
So, if I understand this correctly, a platform like yours that uses both AI and large language models would make suggestions about the kind of comment that could be posted on a particular post. But you're saying that ultimately it should be the user that decides the exact response, whether it's the one that whether they wish to go with the one that was generated by the platform, or if it needs to be tweaked to a degree to incorporate a level of unique perspective or perhaps insight that AI would not necessarily have.
That
Would
is
that be correct?
correct. Yeah, that's correct. So the user will always have a chance to add their personal perspective into the drafted comment.
Mhm.
The AI will look at the content of the post, and then they will also look at the tone chosen by the user, and by combining those two things together, they will create a contextual comment for the user. But it doesn't mean that it's perfect.
Mm.
There is still room for the user to add something about it, to remove something about, to remove some of part of it, and then to add their personal touch. For example, if I were to engage with you, Vinay, and even though with using the I would still add the personal touch in there. Say, for example, I would say after the AI crafting the comment for me, I would add something like that reminded me the podcast interview that we did, Vinay, and you talk about it. Those are the personal tasks that we always can add. And just because I have the AI to drop it for us, it doesn't mean that we can add anything, our perspective into that. So that is the
Mm.
way that it works.
So it would suggest to me then that there is a kind of a balancing act that needs to be understood. So how would
Exactly.
you define the balance between leveraging AI effectively and managing expectations around its capabilities, particularly in the context of B2B interactions?
Absolutely. The balancing act is really about the quality as well. I know that sometimes people are tempted, and we have seen some of the user are using it in that fashion, but it's very small percentage. So where they literally just drafted and used Engage AI for 1,000 comment, 1,000 content in a single day. I think that is not going to work because a lot of time, if you just simply press the button and then click the post, people will be able to see through that.
Mhm.
But when you use the AI to augment and to help you while you still add personal touch, that is where really the real power that kicks in. Because people will appreciate that all of those your perspective, and they want that authenticity. So that is really the balancing act that number one people should take is about the quality. It's not necessarily about having the highest volume. We all do want to have volume, but have a volume that is reasonable. So, for example, about 100 comments without AI, making 100 comments per day on 100 prospect is going to be very difficult. But with AI, making 100 comments on 100 different prospects, it will become a reality. And that is still reasonable, right? But you don't necessarily want to go down the path where making 1,000 or even 10,000 comments per day on 10,000 people. And the reality is, in the B2B business, we can only remember so much and we can only serve so many people. It is impossible to serve 1,000 people anyway. For B2B, at any point of time, we probably only care about 50 to 100 people anyway. So why go to the extreme when the businesses can't even meet the needs?
Are there particular strategies that you would recommend to help people use a platform like yours or even AI in a general sense? So, what strategies have you found most effective in helping users navigate the transition towards leveraging AI into their communication processes? Because it's easy to say that you can comment on 100 posts by 100 different people. How much of that needs to be taken with a pinch of salt? Because at the end of the day, in order to have or build effective relationships, our communication needs to be meaningful and perhaps go beyond just a comment.
Exactly. So the conversation should be meaningful rather than just commenting for the sake of the commenting. And to do that, one have to do it consistently. So if you remember Google, I think back in 2011, Google came out with this research that how many hours that people are spending to learn about you and how many touch points that that we have to have with the prospect at how many different places. So I think that is what they call the 7-11-4 rules, where people
Mhm.
spend about 7 hours to research about you. You need to have 11 touch points with them, and then you have to have those interaction in four different venue or four different places. Now,
Yeah.
exactly the same thing as but even like for us in the B2B and even for us in using this commenting for attention strategy. Just because you make one single comment is people are not necessarily going to take notice of us and then start a conversation. So the key messages from what we learn from Google is that you have to consistently, it has to happen over a period of time. So once you have do that, you will start noticing the businesses who employ that sort of strategy and do it consistently over a period of time. They would notice one or two things. Number one, they will notice that the prospect will start engaging and respond to their comment in the public space, or those prospects will look at their profile to see who they are.
Mhm.
And sometimes it would be one of those two things happen, but a lot of time it will be both of them happen. And that is the best time. So when you consistently having that sort of engagement with your prospect in the public space, or when they come and look at your profile, really the next step that you want to do is start a conversation.
Mhm.
Start a conversation with them privately in the direct messages, because that is a better time that really to start a conversation now, right? So, like, for example, after you have the profile visit, after they have responded to your comment, you just start a comment and say, "Hey, Vile, so glad that you continue posting all of those B2B marketing, because I think a lot of people like myself still struggle to understand how to use content as a way to sell our expertise. I really love it. Do you plan to post more? So just start conversation in the direction of what they are already talking about. I was just talking to a user last Friday when I met him at the networking event. And he told me that's one really interesting thing that he told me that his challenges is one of the biggest problem that he has a lot of time is how to start the first sentences when he is trying to write an email, trying to write a message to a customer, to a prospect that he hasn't spoken for a long time.
Mhm.
What is that one first sentence that you want to write about? What is that first paragraph? Because he doesn't want his first sentence or his first paragraph to straight away go into the sales. Like, for example, hey, Vide, I haven't talked to you for a while. Can you please upgrade? It doesn't work. But just imagine that when your prospect is already posting content, and the very fact that not only he is posting content, you guys are talking in that content, in the commenting, in the engagement, isn't that such an easy way and a natural way to start a conversation? So that is really the second step is that start and continue the conversation. As you start and continue the conversation, everything that all of those sales experts is teaching, like try to find out their pain point, try to find out their challenges, try to get them to share all of those and see how you can help them should automatically kick in.
Mm.
So what we are helping with people is that we help them to get the attention and we help them to break the ice and start a conversation. Everything else will kick in as whether it's the right timing, whether you have the expertise or the of the services that you will be able to help them. We can't control those things and we would
Mhm.
never be able to promise all of those things. But what we can help though is to break the ice, get their attention, and start the conversation. So if I were to summarize what I have to say again, really number one is get their attention, do it consistently to get their attention, and then continue the conversation in a private space, whether it's by DM, by email, or by a Zoom meeting, like something like this.
Just listening to what you've been saying, I sense that the customer experience and user experience is important to you and the company as well. I'm curious, how do you prioritize customer experience in the development of a platform like Engage AI? And how would you see it playing a role in driving predictable revenue growth for your company?
Absolutely, absolutely. I would say that number one is to speak with our user and our customer a lot, whether they are free user, paying user, or people churn away, speak with every single one of them and speak to a lot of them because the only way to know for sure is to by speaking with your user. A classic example would be we have this feature called leads monitoring. When we first built it, we built it. But we never really understood how important it is for people. We thought it's cool, that's why we built it. But after speaking with so many people are telling us that, Jason, the reason why we are leaving is because your lead monitoring is not working 100% and it's not working all the time. There are bugs in it, there are problems with it, so you need to fix it. That only helped us to realize that, oh, holy smoke, that is a problem with our system, and we don't even know that. And we only found out after the user telling us. Number two, after we fix that, and then we keep going back to the user interview and we keep speaking to our customer, and only to realize that it is actually very important for them. And also, we are probably the only one who is out there doing this. What that means is
Mm.
that I think whether you probably have 2 or 3 thousand connection or follower on LinkedIn. I suspect you probably have more, like 10 or 20,000. But the truth is, a lot of us, even though we have thousands and thousands of connections, in a B2B business, we only care about 50 to 100 people at any given. of time because there is only that much that we can prospect and there's only so much that we can serve in the B2B business, especially as an SMB owner. The challenge that we have with that though is that LinkedIn doesn't show us those people that we care about. They show us whoever they want to show us because of the algorithm in the newsfeed. Either we continue scroll endlessly on LinkedIn, or we have to search, or we have to bookmark those people that we care about and then go to check. Now, imagine if checking those people whether they are posting or not, it takes about 1 minute for each person. 100 people would take us about 100 minutes every single day just to see whether they post or not so that we can engage. And that's a lot of time waste.
Mm.
So that is not a thing that apparently that user really care about. And that is what we have been spending all the effort and all the energy that we invest in that. So really it's not about the quantity of the people that we can engage, but it's about the quality and also the really the one that we think that we will be able to serve them will be able. So the answer to summarize what I have been saying is that in building Engage AI, one of the things that we really try to balance and try to be able to continue to do well and evolve is by speaking with our youth.
And can you share specific influences such as Steve Jobs and Apple in shaping your approach to building intuitive and seamless user experiences with Engage AI?
I'm not too sure if I fully understand that. Do you mind to say that again?
Sure. Can you share how specific influences like Steve Jobs and Apple have shaped your approach to building the customer experience and the user experience of Engage AI?
Oh, that is a tough question. That is an unexpected question. But that is one thing that I certainly take into consideration is the simplicity.
Mhm.
I really think that I think even though Engage AI only do one thing, well, two things. Number one, commenting. Number two, monitor the lead. I think we still overcomplicate it a lot. And that just reminded me about the philosophy of Steve Jobs and Apple is that keep things as simple as it is. Make the thing as seamless as it is and make it as smooth as possible. I am a Windows user, but with my phone, I have been using iPhone since day one. I tried Android for one time, and I just realized that with iPhone, everything seemed to be so simple. Like for example, I still remember when I bought my headset, the earphone. I still remember that how easy it is to connect with my phone, and I start using it straight away. And when I compare that experience with any other technology product that I have ever used and ever bought, the seamless process in connecting two together and start using it is something that I have never experienced anywhere else before. So that is probably one thing that I have to remind myself, and that is something that we equally been trying to do over the last 2 months is to simplify, and try to keep it as easy as possible to create a really simple experience.
And I'm curious, would you be able to share a case study or examples of successful implementations of Engage AI in a B2B company and its
Absolutely.
impact on their business?
Number one is the user. We serve B2B, and to be more precise, white collar B2B businesses. So, for example, professional services, recruiters code. So, we have a customer who are in the recruitment businesses. And in the recruitment business, number one, they have to go out and prospect with your enterprise or SME, all of the businesses to use their services, right? And recruiter or recruitment agency is probably one of the most active user on LinkedIn. So the recruitment business agency, they have used us for two different purposes. I'll talk about the first purposes and the first use case that a lot of people can relate to. So recruitment agency, same like many other professional services, they have to go out and prospect their client,
Mm.
or they have to stay in touch with their existing client. Now, you could imagine that trying to get your prospect or existing business client to go out for coffee no longer work because so many people ask them to go out for coffee. But at the same time, they want to continue to engage them and to keep themselves on top of mind. Email no longer work. They find that a lot of their email get unsubscribed. They also find that a lot of their messages go unnoticed. People don't seem to read them. They also find that the phone call doesn't work as well. So for that, they have reached out and they have used our product to comment with their prospect, especially when their target client are the mid-level manager or the senior manager who often still make quite a bit of content and post a lot of content on LinkedIn. So they use that as a way to break the ice and then to also to stay in touch to keep themselves on top of mind. And then as they do that, everything else that I said earlier, once you break the ice, once you get their attention, then you will be able to start a conversation like I described earlier. That is where then every other thing that will kick in, that way they will start prospecting and then try to find out how they can use. So they have managed to increase their businesses in terms of the client that they are getting by 11% based on the number that they have shared with us in terms of the prospecting, because as they told us, people no longer read email, people no longer read messages, and people definitely do not want to pick up the phone call. But they have found that messaging or engagement on the content has certainly allowed them to be able to continue and find a way to speak with the customer. So that is one of the use case that they have used. The second use case is probably a little bit more unique to their business, but I suspect that it will be equally applicable to some of the B2B business as well, is to find talent. So what they have shared with us is that a lot of time when they advertise a job, while they may have hundreds and hundreds of applicants by advertising the job on the job board, the challenges with the applicant from the job board is that they are not necessarily the star candidate. Occasionally, they will still get the star candidate, the talent that coming through, because at that particular point of time, the star talent are looking for a job. But the reality, though, is that a lot of time, your rock star programmer, your rock star talent, they are actually not actively looking for a job at all because they are so good that they are very happy with their job because they have a really good offer. So those people are not actively looking for a job. However, as a recruiter, you want to be able to present at least a few of those rock star talent to your client who is looking to fill a role. And in order to do that, they find that they have to go out and search some of these rock star and try to engage with them to get them to be interested in applying for a job. And
Mm.
again, sending messages often go unread. I experienced it myself as well when I'm trying to recruit in the past. Phone call doesn't get picked up, email doesn't get read. So they found that engaging these rock star talent by going through their content on LinkedIn is one way that they can actually engage the rock star talent who are often passive, but then they are able to break the ice, start the conversation, and get these people to apply for the role that they are searching the best of the best for their client. And again, so these are the two use cases that we have seen how recruiters are using Engage AI on LinkedIn for their businesses. But a lot of those things that I just shared would be equally applied and used by the businesses, the professional services businesses as well.
Could you speak to the kinds of results that they have seen as a result of using a platform like yours?
Absolutely. So they were sharing that they probably see about 11% increase in terms of the in prospecting. They are able to book more meeting, at least 11% more meeting as a result of using that mechanic, the strategy. In terms of the passive candidate, I think they were telling me from on top of my head, I think the number they were sharing with me is probably about 8% increase in getting the passive candidate in applying for the role.
Right. Okay. So it's definitely a better way to engage with folks. Uh, Perspective. Would you say that there is a role for customer narratives in terms of building trust and credibility with prospects? If so, how do you incorporate that?
Absolutely. And I think that is the whole thing about the B2B business, right? It's about building the know and trust relationship. I think where we are today, I think there are still a group of people where they don't like if you use AI. It's like they don't like when you use AI to create the marketing content. But the truth is, over the last 12 months or over the last 24 months, the fact is, over the last 24 months, a lot of the people, marketers are actually already using the AI to help them creating the marketing content. I get that there are still a group of people who doesn't like the idea, but equally, a lot of people are getting more comfortable and are okay with that. But the truth is, if we just use AI and craft the content or craft the messages or craft the comment without modifying it, people will never like it. But if you use it as a way to augment your workflow with your work, people are okay with it. And I believe that as we progress to the future, more and more people will be more comfortable with it. And I know that because every single software product out there is starting to infuse generative AI into their product. For example, you want to sell something on eBay. eBay allows you to use Gen AI to write description. Why? Because write description is hard. Writing good description that will come out in the SEO search result is even harder. So just think about when eBay is incorporating Gen AI into their product so that people can use Gen AI to write description, it means that more and more people will be exposed, more and more people will also be using it in their day-to-day life. That's one example. Second example is conference. So conference is one of the product by Alancia to help you to write. I use conference. They are also incorporating AI to help you to write the article on conference. And that why? Because it will make it easier for us to write. Not all the technical people are good in writing, right? So the fact that more and more people are going to start experiencing Gen AI in their life, in so many different aspects of their life, will grow more and more comfortable in accepting generative AI as part of their workflow, as part of their outcome. The key to win, though, is not to blindly and only solely use the AI to produce the outcome, but to use it to augment the work. That is really the key.
Certainly. Thank you for that. As we look to the future, what advice would you give to B2B companies that are looking to incorporate and leverage more into not just their sales or prospecting side of things, but into the wider workflows and processes that they are building out?
Absolutely. I think the number one thing that I would say is get started. Don't delay it no more because this is not a hype. This thing is real. That's number one. So get started. The number two is get started with the internal product or internal process rather than the customer facing. So this is probably the case, especially for those large enterprise. Your first Gen AI product doesn't have to be the chatbot for the customer facing process because you are still learning about it. So why don't you use the Gen AI, for example, why is use the AI in the conference if they use conference for their employee to write the documentation. Use the AI in the GitHub to help their programmer to program faster.
Mm.
Get comfortable in those areas in the internal work and the internal workflow. And as they develop the familiarity and the understanding and the appetite for that, then gradually expand that to the customer facing. That is really, I think, the two tips that I will give to businesses who are still considering, who are still sitting on the fence about whether to use Gen AI or not. Number one, get started. Number two, start internally rather than externally, and then get comfortable.
Certainly. And is there perhaps an aspect or two around this idea of leveraging AI and large language models that you find doesn't get talked about very much? If so, what would they be?
Using the large language for
For within their businesses. So we've talked about it in terms of leveraging it to engage with future clients potentially. But as we look at the broader picture, are there perhaps one or two areas of AI and large language models that you find often doesn't get talked about very much? If so, what would they be?
ah, who I would say I would say for prospecting or for sales. I think a lot of people are still talking about Gen AI or large language model for marketing purposes, i.e., for example, create blog article, create content on social media, or even creating the documentation internally and also building the chatbot. All of those things are talked a lot, but I think using it for prospecting or for customer services is the one that doesn't talk a lot, is not getting enough attention. So prospecting is what I have described, especially using Engage AI. So we talked about that already. But for customer services, I think that is one bit that people are not talking about enough yet. For the reason that maybe it still is a lot harder to be able to do that. But think about when you have the generative AI to help you to craft the email automatically in batch so that when your call center consultant come to work in the morning, what they do is to review all the email response that AI have already drafted for them and then fix some of that and add their personal touch before sending up. I think that's probably number one that people are not doing enough yet. Although a lot of the call center consultants are already using the chat GPT to help them do it in that way, where they copy and paste the email to chat GPT and they ask chat GPT to help them to respond and then they copy and paste back. I think that is an opportunity to integrate the entire process together and then use that for customer service. I think that is really the next big opportunity.
And to wrap up, Jason, if you were listening to this episode, what would you say would be your top takeaway?
What would I say to
What would be your top takeaway?
I think embrace AI. That would be the takeaway. Embrace it, give it a try, and especially I would say that I've been doing data and AI for almost 2 decades now. AI used to be exclusive to all the big boys in the town, like for example your big banks, your big insurer, because it costs millions, if not tens of millions, to build it. But these days, as an SMB, you could subscribe to an AI product for $50, $80. That was unheard of. That was not possible 2 decades
Yep.
ago. But it is a reality these days. If the $50 or $100 a month is going to increase your employee productivity by 30%, that $100 is well spent.
Mm.
And if you find out that it doesn't work, it only costs you $100 a month for however long that you continue to subscribe. And if you think that it doesn't work, then stop it. But don't deny it because this thing is real. So embrace it and embrace it for your businesses and embrace it for the future.
Excellent. And Jason, if listeners are curious, want to find out more or connect with you, where would you recommend they go to?
Go to our website engage-ai.co or simply search engage AI on Google. They will be able to find the website, or otherwise go up, come and reach out to me on LinkedIn, search for the name Jason 10. They will be able to find me on LinkedIn.
We'll include links to that in the show notes. Jason, thank you so much for doing this. It's been brilliant.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoy it.